Martin, thanks so much for your time. I mean, we're reacting to this this media article that did detail that essentially you were wanting to answer more to the president's Tumamina call by having more of an influence, or rather, or more activity in turning around problem state-owned enterprises. The question is, why?
Well, there's a contribution that many of us can play. I've been in the industry for 40 years, restructuring both in the private and the public sector. And as I will be transitioning out of my role, as you've said, over time, not immediately.
Sure. Was that 2 years? Or?
I think 2 or 3 years would be the right sort of time frame. That time can be constructively used in putting some of my experience, if it's valuable, to use in addressing some of the challenges that are facing the country more broadly. I've seen them at first hand at the board of SAA, but I think we know very well that the need for a capable state can be reinforced by many of us in the private sector. It doesn't just need to be me. I think the business community has got much that it can do to lend its skills, experience, insights and resources to the public sector in a variety of different ways.
I mean, the biggest problem child in the SOE space, arguably, or not even, is Eskom. Are you looking to play a hand in there?
Well, that will be up to the shareholders and the board of Eskom. Certainly at the moment, in my booster capacity, Business Unity South Africa is playing a very direct role in engaging with all of the stakeholders, including Eskom, including the shareholder ministry, and including government more broadly, because it's clear that Eskom actually represents the biggest single threat to the economic viability of the country. And if we get it right, it can spur us to achieve many of the potential opportunities and economic outcomes that we all desire and need if we're going to achieve inclusive growth as quickly as possible.
And Martin, I understand that Business Unity South Africa, of which you are the Vice President there, is meeting with the President of the country this week. Is this correct? And if so, what's the meeting about?
Well, we have sought a meeting with the President. That has yet to be confirmed. That is, again, to commit ourselves to working with him, with his administration, with Eskom, as a matter of urgency, to make the resources that business can amass and can make available as quickly as possible, because it is clear that Eskom is a current and present crisis that needs to be addressed very quickly. There's a longer-term restructuring. That's not what we're talking about. Businesses affected very directly, small and large businesses, domestic and multinational, by the current crisis at Eskom. And we think we need to put our shoulder to the wheel. And so we're basically offering our services through the President to South Africa to see how we can do that in the most effective manner.
And if he had to ask you, though, what would be the most effective manner of fixing Eskom, what would you say?
Well, we have a number of skilled resources. We think that Eskom can do with that. You can see that there's been a team that's already been mobilized by the Minister of Public Enterprises and the Chairman of Eskom from business. We think that can be supplemented, not just in the context of generation, but in many of the disciplines that are important for Eskom. We think that as a country we need to have a common and aligned view as to the nature of the challenges and how they can best be tackled, and working collectively, not only, I have to say, with government, but with other social partners, with organised labour and with community, is the only way that we're going to resolve those problems. They're not going to be resolved in the short term. I think we all now have come to understand that this is a problem that was long in the making and it will take the medium term to resolve, but certainly we can put our resources to work immediately in tackling some of the current crises.
Because Moody's today coming out with its statement essentially confirming that yes, it is still keeping South Africa at investment grade and it hasn't made any alterations to the outlook as was expected. So a much better than expected statement out of Moody's. I mean, for this time that it has given us, so what should South Africa be doing first to take full advantage of the reprieve that we essentially got?
Well, you're right, Fifi. We've been given a stay of execution and we need to make the most of it. We need to get through the elections. The elections always bring uncertainty. We need post the elections to ensure that we have clear, predictable policies that can be implemented, particularly with respect to Eskom and electricity, but not only there. We need to ensure that we have fiscal prudence that is observed. We have limits to the amount that we can borrow as a country and that the SOEs can borrow in their own account. We're going to have to tighten our belts. We've been very clear about that. And some tough decisions are going to have to be taken. And those decisions need to be taken in conjunction with all social partners, not unilaterally by business or indeed by government.
I mean, reprieve, but certainly not out of the woods, because many say that Moody's, a downgrade for Moody's is just, it is around the corner, it is coming. And in that instance, or should that happen, I mean, what's the worst case scenario for state-owned enterprises? Have you factored that in?
Well, we absolutely know that the consequence of a downgrade will be a significant reduction in the amount of capital that's available to the country and an increase in the cost of that capital. So borrowing will become more expensive, not just for state-owned enterprises, but for banks and indeed for borrowers, including retail customers of banks such as you and I. We need to anticipate that although it's been factored in by many people, it will hit much more directly. There will be an impact on inflation, there will be an impact on economic growth, and there will be a direct impact on our ability to create the jobs that are so sorely needed in South Africa right now and for the future.
Martin, just parting question really quickly. I mean, in your engagements in trying to mobilize capital for South Africa's economy, or investment rather, Reserve Bank Governor coming out with this, the statement in the quarterly bulletin saying that as of last year, foreign direct inflows into the country, foreign direct investments actually increased. In fact, they more than doubled. But then you look at what the local guys are doing in terms of dishing out their capital. They, in fact, it contracted for the entire of 2018. So it seems that, I mean, today we're even reading that a Russian company is investing 500 million in the continent, of which a substantial amount is coming to South Africa. So it seems like foreigners are more upbeat about South Africans than than local investors. So I mean, you deal with them.
Yes, I think that's a myth, I have to say. The foreigners take their lead from local investors, and all the studies that have been done demonstrate that actually the level of capital that has been expended is consistent with the amount of cash that people have, free cash, on their balance sheet. The President has called for $100 billion to be mobilized towards South Africa, not just from abroad, but indeed domestically, and we very much hope that that will continue to be the case. But we have to take our lead from, as I said, local investors, although we're very encouraged by the level of interest that we've seen demonstrated by many multinationals and foreign companies.
But you say it's a myth, except these figures come from the Reserve Bank.
Yes.
That foreigners, their investment inflows into South Africa more than doubled, in fact, in 2018. Yet with the locals, private sector investment contracted for the entire year in 2018.
Yes, but I think you need to look at that, Fifi, over a period of time. The reality is that over the last 5 years, there's been very limited foreign investment into South Africa. We've seen a significant pickup. The local investors have continued to invest to the extent that there have been opportunities so to do.
All right, Martin, let us leave it there for now in the interest of time. That was Martin Kingston from the South African unit of Rothschild and Company.